had I not known it could have become horrible. Women are in charge of their own health, but essentially there's a cell called the osteoblast that builds bone. So without estrogen kind of control this crazy cell doing its job, we become out of balance.
If you've heard of the longevity Bible, Lifespan, by Professor David Sinclair, you know that living well is more important than just living long. In fact, this show is dedicated to the science of beauty, wellness, and longevity. That's why I'm so thrilled to partner with Melrose Future Lab. Future Lab is Australia's first supplement range focused on extending not just your lifespan, but your health span. Available exclusively at Chemist Warehouse, these affordable and science-backed supplements are the key to aging well. Welcome to Ageless Radiance Club, the podcast where we unlock the secrets to living longer, feeling stronger, and thriving at every stage of life. I'm your host, Bahar Etminan, and today's episode is a masterclass in longevity, strength, and taking control of your future health. We are living longer than ever before, having children later in life and rewriting what aging looks like. But whilst our lifespan has extended, our health span, the years we live in good health, often falls short. That's why today's conversation is so critical. My guest is the incredible Dr. Vonda Wright, a double board certified orthopedic surgeon and a global authority on active aging, longevity, and mobility. Dr. Wright's expertise goes far beyond surgery. She is a true innovator in longevity medicine. She specialises in musculoskeletal aging, performance optimization, and regenerative health strategies that keep people to stay strong longer and independent well into their later years. Dr. Wright has worked with elite athletes, Olympic competitors, professional dancers, and active people of all ages. She's authored multiple books, including Fitness After 40 and Guide to Thrive, and her research is reshaping how we understand aging. In today's conversation, we dive deep into the science of longevity from an orthopedic and sports medicine perspective. Welcome, Dr. Vonda Wright. Dr. Vonda, I am so delighted to have you in person, and we're recording today at Meta Studios. Finally, here we are on the same side of the universe.
I love that. I came all the way across the Pacific for you.
Well, you actually came for 2,500 women at the Sydney Opera House for So Hot Right Now.
That's
and
right.
It was such a thrill. And we were talking before we started recording today about Dr. Vonda on the stage of the Sydney Opera House holding her femur.
Yes.
And talking like a boss about musculoskeletal health.
Yeah.
And you somehow made a topic that is kind of deep science and deep medical science, accessible, and the light bulbs go off for the first time in a lot of people's minds. And I want to extend that conversation with you today.
You know, I think a lot of people don't think about their musculoskeletal system, which is your bones, your muscles, your tendons, the fat we carry around. Those all fit within that system. I mean, when you think about it, you know, in New York, we just ended Fashion Week. And as Fashion Weeks go around the world, we only think of bones, for instance, as who has beautiful cheekbones, or our wrists, the beautiful lines of our wrists. But the fact of the matter is that all parts of our form, how statuesque, our posture, all has to do with our bones and our muscles. And maybe that's as far as the conversation ever goes until smart, savvy women, like the women who listen to you, realize that without bones, a third of us end up in a nursing home. Or when we fracture the big femur bone that I held up on stage, that 50% of the time, if that happens to you in your 70s or 80s, you don't get to go home to the place where you've raised your children, and a full 30% of the time, women die. So
that was the one that really
isn't
blew
that
my
astounding?
mind. Yeah, that was terrible.
So if we can reach women as you do all the time in their 30s, in their 40s, if the women who lead our friend groups can say, hey, this is something we cannot ignore, and here's why. It's more than the lines of our cheekbones, then listen, I'll get up on any stage in the world to try to save those women's lives.
Well, in full disclosure, and I don't mean to overstate this, but I feel like you saved my life. And the reason I'm going to tell this story, and I've been fangirling you for quite some time about this, but one of the wonderful educational episodes that you hosted on Instagram, for the first time I heard someone talk about DEXA scans, but you talk about it a lot.
I do.
And one of the things that you were insisting on in a number of these posts on Instagram was take charge of your own health.
Yes.
Go and request a DEXA scan. You're not going to be offered one through the medical system until you're 65 in the US, 70 in Australia. But what you need to know is your bone density score.
Yes.
And so I inquired about it. I got a referral from my GP and I went to get a DEXA scan. Yeah. And to my horror, I found out that at age 50, I had osteoporosis in my spine and osteopenia in my hips. And if I had just bumbled along and not known that, I could have been in real trouble.
Absolutely. Well, I think there's so many important things that you just said. But the last thing you just said, had I not known, it could have become horrible, because that's literally what happens. And listen, there is going to be no white knight on a steed running in to save us. Women are in charge of their own health. And the fact of the matter is we're in charge of everybody's health. We make 80% of all the healthcare decisions for ourselves and everybody in our circle, whether it's through simple conversation. So the more we know and the more we share, the more healthy we all are going to be. So no matter what time you find out the status of your bones, you can act to build better bone.
But you said something so important, that you have to be in charge of your own physical health and those around you. Yes. But 50 is very different to 70, which is what the government offers me. In those 20 years, the decline of my bone health could have been catastrophic. And so without that information, without taking agency of finding information, it can be more than just.
Governments make guidelines. In the United States, it's 65. In Australia, it's 70. And you have to step back and ask the honest question, why is the guideline 70? Why is it 65? Is that the first time we need to be concerned about our bones? And I say no. Perhaps the guidelines, and I don't know, I didn't sit on any policy board, are due to the fact that if we find out our bones are brittle at 70 and start someone on a medication, that is 20 years after we find out that we could have found out the bones are brittle. And that's a long economic runway of care. And I hate to be so cynical about it, but I feel so strongly that we need to be doing DEXA scans in our 40s.
I wish I had.
Absolutely, because estrogen starts to precipitously decline as early as 35 and 40 in some women. And bone is incredibly sensitive to the role of estrogen in building bone and controlling the remodeling, which is the resorption and the building of bone, right? Because our bones are dynamic. We completely replace the structure of our bones every 10 years.
Do you know, I didn't know that until I listened to you. Can you talk more to that?
Yes. So our bones work by having a series of 5 very complicated steps in bone building, but essentially there's a cell called the osteoblast, B for building, that builds bone. On the other side, there's a cell called the osteoclast, which you can think of like Pac-Man, the old video game.
We know, we're Gen Xers.
I know, we're
we
the
understand.
generation that does Pac-Man. That its job is to continually resorb bone to use it in our bodies, all the minerals. So Pac-Man is going along resorbing bone. The blasts are trying to build bone. Estrogen acts directly on the blast to help them, but it is profound controller of the clast, the Pac-Man. So without estrogen kind of control this crazy cell doing its job, we become out of balance. We resorb more bone than we build. It's not that we don't build bone, but it can't keep up. On top of that, the fact that many women are still locked in the, I've got to be this small, I can't eat, I'm not going to lift heavy because I have to fit into a certain size dress. That is not longevity thinking.
That's exactly what you said.
Yes.
It's so hot right now. And I heard 2,500 women go,
That's right.
It was
That's
such
right.
what?
Yes, if we persist on less than 1,000 calories a day, very low protein intake,
Or Ozempic and other GLP-1 medications that cause rapid weight loss.
Rapid weight loss, when we lose weight alone without building muscle at the same time, we will lose 25 to 50% of muscle. Muscle and bone are the keys to longevity, right? So in trying to improve our health, we're actually potentially hurting it. And so I think smart, savvy women need to be even more smart and savvy. And part of that is pivoting our mindset and rejecting. I hope all the women listening will now go tell their friends in the longevity space where I exist, when men talk about living longer, we talk about longevity. And when George Clooney and Brad Pitt turned 60, they got a photo shoot on the French Riviera with all the glorious celebration of living longer and how distinguished that is. That is not the picture of aging for women currently in society. Men, we talk about longevity. Women, it's all labeled anti-aging, as if there's something wrong with us when we persist in living. And so I want to pivot that entire conversation from anti-aging. I don't want any product to have that on the label. I don't want women to say, I'm doing my best not to age. I would love women to pivot their mindset to, I am doing my best to live long and prosper. That I am going to increase my health span, those healthy years, which when we look at that, Australian women live to be about 85. That is remarkable. American women are currently living on average 79.6.
Wow.
We have some jobs to do. I could get totally into that. But the health span, the healthy years without having to go to a doctor 3 times a week for all the chronic diseases that can affect us are on average 64. Wow. So think about it.
If you're I would only have 13 good years left in me if I wasn't taking active
and then 20
steps.
Years of suffering. Oof. Right? Who wants that?
No.
So if we pedal back and say, okay, I wish I had known at 40 what I know now. At 40, my own story is I was in the best shape of my life. I was an athlete training for triathlon. I had a child at 40, and I was rapidly building a career until 47 happened, and it hit me. And night sweats, brain fog. I couldn't remember the names of instruments.
That's pretty tough for a surgeon, right?
It's terrifying. I thought I was having early dementia, and I started researching signs of early dementia. I was having heart palpitations at night that I thought was heart disease because my family dies of heart disease. And so I went to my cardiologist. We did a stress test. My body hurt so bad, which is called arthralgia, due to the inflammation of losing estrogen, that it was hard for me to get out of bed. So you go from being very active to barely getting out of bed to go to work.
Crazy.
So I wish I had known at 40 so that I could completely have prepared. I would have become menopause and midlife literate at the time.
And you're a doctor and you're a surgeon.
I am probably 22 years of formal education in medicine, and I was unprepared. So one of my goals now is that my generation of women, the millennial generation coming after me, and certainly my 17-year-old daughter will never have to go through that because they will have been prepared. And so I think that that's what this movement, things like you're doing, are helping more women know. And then the women in leadership, whether it's formal or informal, we will then distribute this as ambassadors.
That's true.
It is.
It's absolutely true. And that's what women are really good at as well. You know, historically, that's how we've passed wisdom on,
That's
you know,
right.
in circles and from generation to generation. And if we can make it completely normal and wonderful to pass on this information in the same way. I mean, you talked about it in your So Hot Right Now speech about, you know, the bro culture and gyms and wellness and longevity. And here you are, you know, a woman who's a precision longevity expert. And that's flipping that kind of context on its head. And I genuinely believe that the longevity conversation is the conversation to have. And I guess that's why the name of my show, the name of my business is Ageless Radiance, because that's what we're chasing, not youth club. So it doesn't matter what your age is. It doesn't matter. What we want is just that sense of that vitality, that radiance for as long as possible.
I think actually the longevity discussion is very different for men and women. And hear me out, and please tell me if you disagree. But because men's testosterone, men and women both make testosterone, but let's just stick with testosterone. It does start to decline, but by and large, it stays steady. Women go from monthly cyclical cycles to just chaotic hormones and then nothing. So if we think about longevity in women and think about the beneficial effects of estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone in women, the conversation around longevity, to me, does not start with bonuses like sauna, red light therapy, vibratory plates, blah, 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 that we get to talk about ad lib with men. The heart and soul of longevity conversation for women has to start with what happens to estrogen and maintaining our estrogen levels for as long as possible for bone. I mean, let's stop arguing about everything else, but bone, 1 in 2 women will have an osteoporotic fracture in their lifetime. And we've already talked about the fact that it's so devastating and it robs people of their independence. 1 in 2 women, that's either me or you, are going to experience that. It makes it very personal when we say that. Bone alone is a reason to save 50% of all women, right? But think of the benefits for heart disease, which are pretty clear in lots of studies. Large meta-analysis indicate that estrogen started within the first 10 years of menopause can have a profound effect on long-term cardiovascular health. On top of the fact that when estrogen walks out the door, for many of us, including myself, our once normal cholesterol goes haywire and our triglycerides go.
Exactly. You talked about your cholesterol readings as well.
Yes, my cholesterol went up, my triglycerides, my LDL, which are treated by lifestyle, but augmentatively treated by estrogen. And right now, one of the main ways people do that is just medicalizing it with Lipitor or statins, right? So there's the cardiovascular effects. There's the known work by Lisa Mosconi's work.
Her work is beautiful.
It's beautiful, elegant work, that the entire brain is bathed in estrogen receptors. And so the brain fog, the mood swings, for some women, the psychiatric level changes in their mental health.
Dr. Newsom talked about that in her presentation.
Yes, she did.
About her own personal lived experience of the psychological impact of estrogen deficiency.
That's right.
I have a great update to share from Melrose Future Lab. Hormonal health is a vital hallmark of aging and longevity. And whether you're navigating perimenopause or menopause, Melrose Future Lab's new ultra-complex supplements are here to support you. Backed by clinical research and using advanced technology for effective absorption, these formulations are designed to provide relief through every phase. Find them exclusively at Chemist Warehouse. Always read the label and follow the directions for use. It's interesting because all of the experts, especially the female experts, have lived experience.
Absolutely.
Of estrogen deficiency. And that's the thing that was so scary to me, is that you're not just talking about it. You're talking about it from having been deficient at one point and not being treated correctly. And that part of it really blew my mind, because I think in a way it makes other, non-medically trained women feel less silly and also realize that we do have to take charge. And one of the things that you've said, and all of the doctors that presented, many of the doctors I speak to, is that moment of advocacy is really important. And if you're not getting what you need from your specialist or your GP, find another one.
Absolutely. And this is not to be pejorative about physicians, but physicians aren't trained in menopause. Certainly current training in medicine is not a longevity focus, which is entirely preventively focused, right? When I tell people that I think every woman needs a DEXA scan at 40, that is for prevention, not treatment. I catch so many women who are young, even 24, who I do a DEXA scan on, and their bones are weak, right? And so we begin immediately a treatment plan that involves, if they're old enough to consider hormones, but definitely lifting weights and the kind of jumping I like people to do, but even balance and agility training so we don't fall down and break our bones. So all of that is preventative because we know from several very good studies that we can build bone.
I wanted to go back to that because that was the good news part of your presentation at So Hot Right Now, which I really loved, is that, and the first thing you said to me when we met here in Australia, you said, okay, what are we doing about it?
What are we doing about it?
What, you'll get your results back, you'll get measured along the way, and you'll see you can. So what can we do about it? Say that we've had the DEXA scan, the news is a little bit, osteopenia is in the house or osteoporosis.
Yes.
What are some of the things that we can do with early set bone issues?
Well, before I get to what to do, I want to explain to people who may have never even heard of a DEXA scan what it is and how you measure it, right? So a DEXA scan allows us to compare your bone density now using x-ray to several things. One, the bones of a healthy 30-year-old person, and that gives you something called a T-score, which I will explain. And it also gives us the ability to compare your bone density to other women in your own age category. So if we use T-score, which is the standard, DEXA scans are graded just like we were in school on a bell curve. The 0 of that bell curve, the average, is the bone health of a 30-year-old woman.
Always.
A healthy 30-year-old woman. Any positive number, any positive T-score, 1, 2, 3, amazing, good for you. Your bones are doing a good job. A score of 0 to -1 still falls within normal, but the definition of osteopenia, which is loss of bone density, is -1 T-score. Here's what people don't know about osteopenia. 70% of all fractures happen in osteopenic women. So it is a wake-up call. It is not a chance to ignore what's going on. It's saying, okay, girl, we caught you early. Let's go. Because when our T-score goes to 2.5 standard deviations away from the norm, -2.5, that is the definition of osteoporosis. And that is when we are really in a dangerous position. So get a DEXA scan early. Here are the reasons why. When you're less than 70, you could advocate for yourself with your GP or with your OB-GYN. Number one, these are risk factors of osteoporosis. Number one, is your mother shrinking? Are you shrinking? Have you had a fracture since the age of 20? Did you, now or in your youth, smoke or vape? Nicotine and those chemicals are poison to bone. Do you, this is a big one in the United States and in Australia, do you drink more than 2 glasses of any alcohol a day?
You're going to say, right?
No,
a day. Okay,
a day.
Right.
A day. So it's half a bottle of wine. Are we drinking? I mean, and that's easy to do in a social situation. Consistently poison to bones, not to mention your brain and your breast. I hate to say it out loud, but it's the truth. I would never lie to you. Were you treated in your youth with steroids? People with asthma have chronic steroid use, or autoimmune disease are treated with drugs that can suppress bone density. Do you have a family history, for instance? Caucasian women tend to have lower bone density than other races of women, but it's not to say we shouldn't pay attention with people who have darker skin, but if you're Caucasian, it's an extra risk. Were you in your youth taught to be teeny tiny, be on a diet all the time, and maybe in your youth went months and months and months without a period because you were an athlete or didn't eat enough food?
Totally.
So many of us. I was a ballet dancer. Yes. And I would go months and months because I was just that little, right? And So all of these reasons I've just given you are risk factors for poor bone health. It is a reason to walk into your GP and say, I have these 4 reasons. I need a DEXA scan. Here's the trick. Even if you can't get it through the normal channels, many gyms now have a DEXA scanner on site that you can pay cash for. And
I went to an event, a menopause event,
Yes.
a couple of weeks ago, and they had a mobile DEXA scan machine turn up, and it was so cool. And I thought,
and it's painless.
How wonderful.
And it takes 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's very little.
It is painless. That's good to say. I think it's important to say.
You just lay there still. It doesn't hurt. It's minimal radiation, but the information it gives you to empower your health and longevity for the future is amazing. Because what if you've spent your entire life being so careful about what you eat, about going to the gym? What if you've done all the things right, but you don't know that your bones are weak and you fall down and break a hip like your Aunt Mary did? The statistics still apply to you 50% of the time. You don't get to move back into the home that you've nurtured your whole life. So we just never want to get there by being unaware. And that's why the entire focus for me of longevity for women is prevention.
Yes.
Not waiting to treat the
Because
diseases.
if we get to your theatre, as much as we'd love to see you, something has gone
when you
terribly
come
wrong.
into my office with end-stage arthritis or a broken something, right? It's not that I can't fix you. It's our job as an orthopedic surgeon to fix you. But what if we would have never gotten there in the first place? How much better would that have been?
I want to go back now to what are the things we can do, because I think you have mentioned that there's actually quite a number of things that we can do, even with the diagnosis of osteoporosis, osteopenia.
Yeah.
And at any age, you said, and this being a longevity conversation, I want to just remind everyone that since we are living longer and, 60 is the new 40 and you're having your 3rd marriage at this time, your kids are out, you want an active lifestyle, your career is still thriving. You want your body to keep up with you. You want it to be as young as you feel.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you can tell us categorically work?
You know what? I'm going to get to all the things you're thinking of, but the first thing I want women to do that are listening is to pivot their mindset. Because at least in the United States, we worship youth.
Yes.
And everything you see in the media, sometimes I even say to people I work with, that if our target is 40, 50, 60-year-old women, why do we have a picture of my 25-year-old daughter in the ad? So I just need women to be thankful for our youth, but then to pivot our mindsets that today can be glorious and the future can be healthy, vital, active, joyful. Because if you're always looking behind your shoulder, you will never be able to see forward into the future enough to give its full due. So the first is a mindset change. The second thing we must do is what we're doing here, which is become completely and totally literate about what's happening now. Listen, if you were going to buy a gorgeous house or some amazing product or car, or on a more serious note, what if someone in your family was sick? You would go to the ends of the earth. You would know the specs of the house. You would probably looked at 60 houses. True. You would have driven all the cars. You would be able to discuss I don't even know cars, hydraulics, the horsepower, all those things. But when it comes to our health, sometimes we're like, we're just so passive. Now is not the time to be passive. Now is the time to be fully involved. Number 3, we need to make our hormone replacement decision. Whether you decide to or not, I believe all women are sentient beings with agency. You get to choose. But what I insist on is that you choose from facts, not fear. We cannot be fearful in our decisions. We need to be factual and bold. And if you decide not, well, then that's your choice. But to sit back and tremble in fear, that is not a choice. That is giving your power away.
You know, in Australia, the government just pledged $500 million to
saw
women's
that.
health.
And I hope that they deliver that for you.
Well, they've already delivered. The most important thing is that they put HRT on the national health. So as of 2 days ago,
yes,
my prescription for estradiol, progesterone, went from $100-something to $30.
That is saving lives.
Which is wonderful. And also in Australia, we can get hold of testosterone that's been dosed correctly for female use, and it is more expensive. It's $100-something, but it lasts forever because we only need just a teeny bit, and the expiration date on testosterone is long.
So what you've just said is that the gate that many women in the world have for access is wide open.
Yes.
So the step is to have a clinician that will order it for you. There is no access gate, which is amazing. So that's the thing. But finally, what kind of lifestyle things do we need to do? Well, number one, if you have 30 minutes a day, we must build muscle mass. We must lift heavy. We can put down the little pink weights that we
I loved when you said that because I do have little pink weights at home.
No, please. Mamby-pamby pink weights are a waste of your time. We're busy women. Every second needs to count. And what counts to building muscle in midlife is what we call strategic stress, meaning you have to work hard enough that your body knows you're alive and will create the strategic stress to stimulate muscle protein synthesis through this pathway, look it up, called mTOR. It is the muscle growth pathway that requires heavy weights. So the way I prescribe is the 4 basic lifts are from the powerlifting world.
Yeah.
So it's an upper body push, pull, like a bench press type move or a pull-up type move. And for the lower extremity, push, pull, squats and deadlifts. It sounds very, very, I don't know what it sounds.
You can find how to do this free.
Oh my goodness.
You can go
I
on
have
anything.
a program all over the
Yeah,
internet.
you do. Yeah.
All over the internet. Or now is the time to search out a personal trainer or strength coach who actually cares about midlife women. You must interview people. Because, like all of us, some trainers have an ego and if they're going to teach you what they know, if what they know is 20-year-old men, they're not the right trainer for you.
That's true.
They will not.
I got my mum a trainer 2 years ago.
Yes.
And I interviewed him
Yes.
and made sure he understood why we were training my 70-year-old mum.
Yes.
And that
to take her seriously.
And that he had experience in training older women for musculoskeletal health.
That's right.
And she was so delighted. She went from never having exercised in her life to doing planks and squats
That's
and
so
deadlifts.
amazing. It's amazing.
She's so proud of herself, and she's no longer using the little pink weights.
That's amazing.
So that was definitely a big move. And I promise that was from listening to you. I had never considered it because I thought, okay, I need to do something, but I thought I need to tell her to do something.
Absolutely. I mean, my mother does the same thing. She's, my mother's 85 and she uses progressively heavier weights as she does her exercises. Every woman must lift weights. And here, I promise you and everyone listening, unless you want to, which takes years and years and years, you will not blow up like a bodybuilder. You will not become a physique model. You will become lean. You will become strong. And muscle is actually nature's Spanx. So everything will fit better, which is important to all of us. So lifting heavy is important, number one. Number two, we must all have a jumping program, whether we're jumping.
I mean, what if you have urinary incontinence? That's what everyone was saying. Like, you can't jump up and down half the time if you're in midlife. Most people go, oh my God.
Well, let's work on our pelvic floors.
Yeah.
The pelvic floor is skeletal muscle. It's like bicep muscle, just in a different place. Let's not accept that. Let's talk about getting some vaginal estrogen to nourish our perineums, which is what that space is called. Let's find a pelvic floor therapist, which is a part of physio, to help us learn how to strengthen our pelvic floor. Very few of us are destined to live with that. Many people do live with that because we just haven't treated it.
And we haven't talked about it.
We haven't talked about it.
So the jumping, is this bone crushing? Is that what
it's bone? I call it bone
smashing?
bashing
Bone
because
bashing.
here's the science. I know you have a very smart audience. Bone responds to the biomechanical stress of hitting, stomping up the stairs like you're mad, jumping up and down 20 times a day, jump rope, hopscotch. You get the point. This impact.
Does it matter what kind of shoes you're wearing? Are you suggesting that like the more impact, the better?
Oh, you can do it in any shoes. I do it on stage in these heels,
Yeah,
but
you do.
probably flat shoes is better so you don't lose your balance, or barefoot. But the biomechanical impulse is received in the bone and is translated into biochemical signals to lay down bone.
Wow.
So what you're doing on the outside is causing bone growth on the inside. And if you cannot do it on the ground for whatever reason, when astronauts come down from the space station, they rehab their bones starting on mini trampolines or rebounders. And NASA has very good research that can be effective. And then you can work your way back. People think, oh, my knees are too painful, I can't do anything. Well, the fact of the matter is the stronger you are and the more work your knees go through, sometimes your pain decreases because the lining of the knees, the cartilage, is very sensitive to pressure. And so if we have no muscle to support the impact of daily walking, our cartilage gets more pounded than if we had the shock absorption of muscle. So instead of this in walking, it's this with everyday walking.
Mm-hmm.
So build muscle, which, by the way, is good for our brains. It's great for our longevity.
And our weight, because it burns more
It
calories.
burns more calories.
Exactly.
Just sitting here will burn more calories if we're lean than if we have a lot of adipose tissue. Muscle, jumping.
You said something very interesting. It's so hot right now. Pilates ain't it?
Listen, Pilates is great for balance.
Yes.
It is great for core strength. It will not keep you out of a nursing home.
Gotcha.
Right? It is not enough muscle building. So I like Pilates and yoga as the salt and pepper of the meal of muscle building, right?
That's good. That's
yeah,
a great way to say.
it's you can do it, but it can't be all you do. I have many friends who do so much Pilates and yoga that they became certified as teachers because they're there all the time. That's fine. Do it a few times a week, but lift heavy weights.
And how often do we do that?
A minimum of twice a week. I mean, every day is fine. It doesn't take hours.
You also have this protocol about running that I hear you talk about.
Yeah. So we're lifting weights, we're jumping. We are not wasting our time on daily high intensity interval training. But I need to be very careful and define what I mean here.
Mm-hmm.
Our heart works in different rates and zones. And what is best for midlife women is that we spend most of our time in low heart rate zones where we're burning fat, building endurance with low heart rate, about 3 hours a week, broken up into 45-minute sessions. Twice a week, we need to move as fast as our hearts can. I don't care what apparatus you use, whether it's a bike or a treadmill or running on the road, but we need to take our heart rate up as high as physically and safely possible.
This is the part where sometimes you lose me because I think, oh.
Yes.
But it's only a short time.
I'm going to give you my example, my personal example, but it's only for 30 seconds.
That's it.
And then you completely recover. And then you do it 4 times, only twice a week. And what that does is it gives us profound metabolic flexibility. It's amazing for our hearts. It's a longevity way to work out versus in the middle that many of us do in intensity classes. We're doing group classes. Our heart rate is in the middle of our heart rate zone, and we do it every single day. It's not intense enough to really do longevity work, but it's so intense that many people every 3 weeks are hurt with something ending up in my office, which is annoying. It's time consuming. It's frustrating. So if we want to be very careful about our time, we're all busy. Every day we brisk walk or low heart rate work, and then twice a week we sprint our guts out. So I'm going to tell people what that looks like for me. For me, my low heart rate work is done. I do it on a treadmill. I'm a former runner, right? At an incline of 4.5 to 5, at a rate of 4. That will keep my heart rate.
I started doing that because
Did you?
Yes.
Yes.
And it made such a difference.
It does make a difference. And for 45 minutes.
I just copy you, basically.
That's okay. I'm flattered that you do that. When I'm done with that 45 minutes, during which time I either solve world peace, I plan my business, I listen to podcasts, I turn everything off because I need to concentrate. I reduce the incline and I punch the treadmill up to 11. And I am going as fast as these little legs can take me.
Yeah.
My heart rate's up to 186.
Oh, gosh.
And I think, oh my God, when is this going to be over? 30 seconds later, it's over. I completely reset and I do it again 4 times.
Okay, I don't do this bit.
You don't do this?
I don't do. I'm going to do it. I'm now encouraged to do this.
The sprinting. Listen,
Okay.
people, if you were trying to recompose your body and get rid of the extra adipose that menopause gives us, it is the lifting heavy and is the sprinting that recomposes. That is what's going to lean you up, and it does it very rapidly. So you've just got to trust me. The final thing, I don't want to leave this. This is a lot of great work physically that we've just talked about. You have to feed your body. You will not grow muscle if you don't feed yourself. So many of us recommend 1 gram of protein per ideal pound, or I guess that's 2 grams per kilogram. We must feed our body high quality protein. The highest quality protein, I'm sorry, vegans, comes from animal protein. Leucine is the amino acid. For those of you that have read a lot about it, protein is broken down into 20 amino acids, 9 of which are essential, meaning you must get them from food. 3 are branch chain, meaning they're not simple, they're complicated. And of those, leucine stimulates muscle protein synthesis the best. So we need foods high in leucine amino acid. And do you know in nature where we find the best source of leucine?
No.
Mother's milk. So if we're designed to feed our babies the best possible protein, I'm not suggesting we all go buy mother's milk, but
bodybuilders
whey
do.
protein, I know, whey protein isolate has the highest leucine.
The whey protein
isolate.
Okay. What about supplementation? Like I've heard you talk about vitamin D, vitamin K, and protein supplements. Do you take supplementation?
I take a very short stack of supplements because here's what I find. People will come to me. I had a woman lately and I love what she's doing for herself. She came to me with a list of 10, 15 supplements and no nutritional input from whole food.
Right.
Because every time we hear something or see something on Instagram, it's pretty convincing.
It is.
But I would rather people fix the basics, make sure their nutrition is totally lined up, and then we can do all the interesting supplementation of all the rare herbs. But the basic stack that I want all my women to be on is vitamin D.
Yes.
Most of us, no matter where we live, we're deficient.
Even in Australia with all of our sun.
Well, because you wear sunscreen all the time,
exactly.
right? Vitamin D is critical. Take it with K2 for absorption. Yeah. Magnesium, 500 milligrams, either L-threonate or glycinate. There are about 17 formulations of magnesium. Citrate is not what you want unless you want GI problems. So glycinate or threonate, 500 milligrams. Omega-3 is a great thing to have in your stack. Sometimes a capsule taken at night so that you don't taste fish all day. And then there are a couple other specialty ones that I like for my people from a longevity standpoint. I'm concerned with decreasing the number of what we call senescent cells, zombie cells running around. And so a supplement called Fisetin or Quercetin, which are herbs that come from strawberries, for instance. Great research has come out of the lab of Johnny Huard in Vail that shows we can decrease senescent cell load with Fisetin supplementation.
Wow. What about NMN and NAD+?
Yes, let's talk about that. So for those that don't know what NAD+ is, it is the coenzyme in more than 400 normal reactions your body makes. And so with age, the amount of NAD+ made in our body declines. And so in my own instance, I used to be exhausted every day at 3 p.m. and just be dragging. I could still build things, but the ability to do deep work, my brain was too tired. And I measured my intracellular NAD+.
Energy.
There are assays that can do that. And young people have between 40 and 60 as a level of NAD+ in the cells. I had 18.
Oof.
So I started supplementing with NMN, which is the immediate precursor to NAD+. Your body needs to make NAD+. I'm sorry for everyone getting it via IV or taking NAD+ as a whole supplement. Your body needs to make the final product. So supplementing with NMN or even going 2 reactions back with NR, they're just B vitamins, right, is the way to then restore the level of NAD+ intracellularly, which can be measured. There are toolkits that you can measure. For me, what that did when I supplement with it is I can go until 9 o'clock at night, which is when I start my bedtime routine.
Amazing.
I have the energy to do what I need to do.
Before we finish up, I wanted to ask you your opinions or your observations of Australian women, because you've had a lot of interaction while you've been here. And I noticed you said that I think you were down at Bondi and you noticed everyone was fit and active. But do you see any? Have you heard anything that strikes you as unusual or interesting or hopeful from having been here in Australia?
I have never been here before. I'm so glad I came. And I have to be honest, stepping off of a 15-hour plane ride that I didn't sleep on, I thought, well, that's long. I may never come back down here. But I'm going to come down here again as soon as I can, because I find the vibrance of the spirit of Australian women so amazing. I find... and I know this is gross generalizations, but I find there's a sense of humor and risk-taking about life. I have personally met so many people who have come here from other countries because of how marvelous it is. And, and I don't know historically where this certain sense of joie de vivre comes from, that people are just enjoying their life. They're out and about.
Because we're far, far away from trouble.
Right. That's
and we
right.
see our American sisters and we want you to blink twice and we'll welcome you.
But you know what I also do find? I find that there is still a tremendous need here for women to take control of their own destinies and not ask for permission, but to take action, because I think sometimes we sit back and say, oh, it wasn't given to me, or nobody told me. And I don't think that's very consistent with the spirit of the women I see here. Why in this one place do we allow ourselves to be so behooving to other people, when other parts of your life you're just out there living large and frankly being healthier than many places in the world? You live to 85 here, which is so much more on average than women in the US or the UK, or even in Asia, where the median age of women is 82, right? So you're doing something right from the standpoint of health and getting what you want when you want it. I just want you to step forward and own your health, because you are in charge of it.
Dr. Vonda, I want to thank you so much for this beautiful and important conversation.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for traveling 15 hours without sleeping to come and speak in front of 2,500 people at the So Hot Right Now event. And you've done a lot of work while you've been here. So I just truly, personally, and also on behalf of all of the people that you touch, I want to say it's an absolute pleasure and honor to host you on the show. And I look forward to welcoming you back for some girly shopping trips, some big yacht floating about on the Sydney Harbour, because you didn't really get to have too much spare time.
I think there's a lot for me to discover here.
There is a lot, and we might just keep you. It was wonderful to have you.
Thank
have
you so
a safe
much.
travel home.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the channel, sign up for our free newsletter, and consider leaving a review and rating it. This really helps the channel grow and reach new audiences.